Buy Bitcoin, don't sell the Bitcoin. I'm going to be buying more Bitcoin. I'm going to be buying Bitcoin at the top forever. I joked with Dave Portnoy today. He said, I missed it at 10,000. I missed it at 20,000. I missed it at 100,000. I said, Dave, it's still less than $1 million a coin. You're getting a 90% discount from $1 million a coin. I'm sure that I will be buying Bitcoin at $1 million a coin, probably $1 billion a day of Bitcoin at $1 million a coin.
And as heirs to the American Revolution and the descendants of patriots who defied tyranny, in the coming months, we are going to pass legislation to roll back the totalitarian fourth branch of government known as the administrative state. We're going to drastically cut back the size and scope of government. We're going to return the power back to the people. And in coordination with President Trump and his administration, we are going to create a leaner, faster, and more efficient federal workforce. We need to do that. Our people do not deserve to be ruled by millions of bureaucrats they've never voted for, never met, and can never hold accountable. They deserve a government that is led by those they've elected to lead. That is how Article 1 is supposed to work. That was the idea of the Congress, and we will return to that principle. The American people have called on us to reject business as usual and throw out the status quo. We must and we will heed their call.
For U.S.-made EVs.
You're right. They're called REEs, and those REEs are they are really not unusual. You can find them in many parts of the world, Tyler. But the key thing is in Jiangxi province, which is about 500 miles north of Hong Kong, that's where they refine all these minerals. And that's where the Chinese in the last couple of days have said, we're going to put a halt on these products that have a dual use, a military and a commercial use. And the Chinese will not back down. I think Xi Jinping is getting ready for a fight with incoming president.
Increased tariffs on U.S. imports into China, or what will his first line of defense be?
I think his
How will he
first line of
prosecute
defense,
the fight?
I think he wants to limit the key elements going into the U.S. for the companies. I think if Trump comes up with a 30% tariff tomorrow, then the next day the Chinese will have their own 30%. Xi Jinping is in total control of the Chinese economy, and he will not back down to Donald Trump. So I do not foresee a very clear road going.
There's been some analogies made to Japan and China being in a deflationary spiral where Japan lost 25 years. Do you see those similarities to China being in a deflationary spiral as well?
Yes and no. Basically, no, because Japan has about 185 million people. China has 10 times as many people. There are multiple levels in China where Xi Jinping can put pressure on, particularly on foreign companies that are doing business there. And I think that is really why Xi Jinping is much more of a challenge than it was with the Japanese. Do I see a deflationary economy in China? I think this year will be worse in growth than it was in 2024, but I don't see any significant value added because I don't know what President Trump's going to do. My guess is that on a broad spectrum, he will immediately raise tariffs as soon as he gets in. That will essentially target those industries that have technologies that the U.S. considers to be of a national security thing. As a result, that's why China yesterday took Boeing, Lockheed, and Raytheon and said, we're not going to sell any parts coming out of China on a dual-use basis. And so I don't see a reason for either side to back off immediately. A lot of it depends on President Trump. If Taiwan was invaded by China, Tyler, I believe that would set off a global catastrophe. I don't think that Xi Jinping is strong enough now with an economy that's growing between 4 and 5% to essentially shut down the economy to take Taiwan. I do think that he is determined that China will eventually take Taiwan. Now, whether it's 27 or 28, I don't know, but it's not 2046, which is the 100th anniversary of the CCP. So I see it probably in the next several years.
Boeing is among them, right, Eunice? Yeah, that's right. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, a lot of these units that these larger corporations have are now among the targets of the Chinese. So China is banning trade of dual-use items for 28 American defense contractors, and then 10 of these companies are on a blacklist for their sales of arms to Taiwan, which is an island that Beijing claims as its own. In addition to that, the Chinese are taking aim at the EV industry. The Commerce Ministry said that it's revising its export control guidelines to include technologies that are important for the production of EV batteries. So this includes lithium and gallium extraction and refining, and battery chemicals and processing, which influence the battery performance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very common misperception that I'm seeing out in the market right now is that, we had, like you said, 100 basis point rise in the 10-year after the September cut. And I think one really predominant narrative out there is the Fed made a policy mistake by cutting rates. And I just think that ignores initial conditions. If you going into that first rate cut, the Fed funds rate was well ahead. It was inverted with the 2-year yield and the 10-year yield. We've never had that kind of an inversion at the start of a cut cycle. And I think that was the bond market's way of telling the Fed that there was a real concern around growth and that there was a recession priced in to the bond market at that point. So the Fed came in and they basically reassured the bond market, and that's the rise in rates as the recession got priced out of the bond market. And I'd say that was stage one of the bond sell-off. And then, of course, Trump was elected, and that introduced some policy uncertainty and ultimately was reflected in the December SEP by the Fed. And so that was stage two of this bond sell-off. And so here we are at 4.6% on the 10-year, 7+% on the 30-year mortgage rate. And you'll have to ask ourselves when it comes to that neutral discussion I talked about, can the U.S. economy handle a 7% plus mortgage rate? And I think that the evidence is going to really become clear as we move through Q1 of this year and into Q2, that the real estate market in particular in the U.S. Economy broadly can't handle this level of interest rates. And so it's going to force the Fed to cut. It just depends on the real question for us all is what kind of pain we're going to have to experience along that path.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have the Bitcoin spokesperson, Michael Saylor, raises $2 more billion to buy more Bitcoin. And I told you this year that strategy is definitely going to change. And how does the Crypto Teacher know that? Because I follow the Fed. And we know the Fed is about to start shrinking this liquidity because it's time to build. And we have Mike Johnson confirms that. The government is going to start cutting spending. And we know all this time, I'm an old man. They always say it, but it never happens. But we know the reason why they're doing it, because they're ready for the robots, algorithms, and drones to take over this economy. And we have China, Xi, and the U.S. President Trump are going to go head to head when it comes to these tariffs. And believe me, at the beginning, it's going to be a lot of drama. Then it's going to settle down. We're not going to hear anything from it. We've seen this movie before. And then it'll pick up when they're ready to distract the masses even more. But these defense cuts are going to allow the government and these private companies to lay off in the name of China. Because a lot of these jobs, the robots, algorithms, and drones can do them a lot better. And then plus, they have more production. They don't need a break. They're not going to call out sick, and they work 24/7 with no insurance. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we have the Fed keeping rates higher for longer. We can already see how it's hurting the economy, the housing market. But remember, guys, this is a plan. It moves in phases. When it comes to the markets, we've seen the same old tech stocks get all the money, and these small caps are being beaten down. And the same thing's going to happen when it comes to banking. The same thing is going to happen when it comes to small business. And of course, small business is the backbone of America. And that's when we're going to start seeing the layoffs pick up. And what do the people do? They run to the government for the solution. And we know that solution been ready 20 years ago, where they can airdrop that free money. But little do the people know, that money is programmable, being able to tell you what, when, and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months suspended or poof, it's gone. Don't forget the goal. You own nothing, but you will be happy. And we see the distractions pick up. The movies pick up. We have the Vegas Cybertruck victim leaves letters warning the people, and this is the same guy that was on a military TV show. Guys, remember, your life is an illusion, and TV is your reality. And both of these incidents, New Orleans and Vegas, these trucks were rented from Turo. And a lot of this doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to try to put it together in a Patreon video tomorrow. Now we have the Surgeon General says alcohol shall have a cancer warning. Yes, you heard that right. Gin, spirits. It is called that for a reason. And we know anytime they come out and do something like this, it's for a reason. The only thing we have to do is sit back, get your popcorn, and let it play out. And remember the crypto teacher told you. Because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. There were a couple pieces of content we thought were important to share for now. One is in the note application. He seemed to have 2 letters. One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. He goes on to explain a variety of other grievances and issues, some political, some personal, a variety of other things, which we will do our best to release very quickly here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact in that notes application. And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took.
Truck used in the New Orleans attack on New Year's and that Tesla Cybertruck explosion in Vegas were both rented on the car-sharing app Turo. The company says it's actively partnering with law enforcement in the ongoing investigation and says it's now their main focus as a company. Joining us now in a CNBC exclusive is Turo CEO Andre Haddad. Andre, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.
So where are we in the investigation right now of both?
Well, listen, it's been a really stressful last 48 hours for all of us. We've been working around the clock to investigate and partner with law enforcement. My first thoughts are for the families' victims. We are really heartbroken for them. This feels so unfair. And second, in terms of our status of our investigation, thinking about what happened, what we've uncovered so far is that, both individuals who rented trucks on Turo in New Orleans and in Las Vegas, were individuals with, clean criminal backgrounds. They had valid U.S. driver's licenses. In fact, they were decorated servicemen.
January so far for the alcohol stocks, the group lower after the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, called for alcohol labels to carry cancer risk warnings. Boston Beer, Diageo, Molson Coors seeing some of the biggest losses today, each down more than 3%. Our Brandon Gomez joins us on set with all the details. There has been for many years the idea that a little bit of booze doesn't hurt you and actually can help you. this would argue that that is not the case.
Yes, and obviously this is information we knew since the 80s. Now it's a continuation of that research. A new advisory, though, specifically calling alcohol the third leading preventable cause of cancer in the U.S., behind obesity and tobacco. Now, the Department of Health and Human Services saying alcohol increases risk of at least 7 types of cancer, regardless of alcohol type, contributing to nearly 100,000 cancer cases and 20,000 cancer deaths each year in the U.S. The Surgeon General calling for reassessed consumption limits, advising public health professionals to educate the general public, and most notably, he wants new labels on alcoholic beverages warning of those cancer risks. Picture those tobacco labels. Alcohol makers offering no comment, pointing me instead to D.C. and trade groups. The Distilled Spirits Council saying it is, quote, federal government's role to determine any proposed changes to warning statements. Passing the buck to D.C. did make me wonder, Tyler, how much lobbying power alcohol has there. Well, roughly $22 million spent in 2024, led by AB InBev, Pernod Ricard, Molson Coors, and other trade groups like the Distilled Spirits Council and Beer Institute. So for investors, expect this to hit Washington before it does Wall Street.
Where is the cancer incidence or the relationship between booze and cancer's highest?
Yeah, so with breast cancer for women, they found it impacts about 16% of breast cancer cases in the U.S. And so that was the highest concentration of impact for alcohol within the cancer category. But again, 7 different types: lung cancer, throat cancer,
and obviously, there's going to be a new Surgeon General in 3 weeks' time, or not, maybe not 3 weeks' time, but roughly. And isn't it the fact of the matter that any kind of label like this would require congressional approval?
That is right. And that's why I sort of draw attention to the lobbying power that alcohol does have down in D.C., because that is going to have to be something that's approved by Congress. You mentioned that there's going to be a new Surgeon General if Trump's nomination is confirmed. And I was looking up Dr. Jeanette Nishawat's past interviews. She's a Fox News contributor. She herself has said, right, drinking less is equal to better health. And so the idea, maybe she will continue this as the new Surgeon General. But again, we'll just have to sort of wait and see.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. We will, and if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and you know, when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence.
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Tam save New York. COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.